It was not as long as some, just as frustrating as some, and just as exhausting, even if it wasn't quite so long. I know, I intervened on one of them on Nextdoor. But yeah, I saw a few of them. Right. Well, and you see it online, right? Like, oh, there's one in Virginia, there's one in New York. Like, surely we must have one here. You can. I don't know. I think we've gotten used to less verbose notes, but it doesn't mean it's not. No, that's why we're holding it. Yeah, I'm happy with getting them with a lot more detail anyway. Good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock, and we will call this regular meeting of the Township Board of the Charter Township of Meridian to order. First on our agenda this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. Will those who are able please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin this evening, we'll ask that we all take a moment to send good thoughts to Treasurer Linda Burkhart as she recovers from an unexpected surgical procedure. We wish her the best, and certainly we hope her a speedy recovery, and we'll be seeing her soon. Next on our agenda is item 3, roll call. Will Clerk Demas please call the roll?
Supervisor Hendrickson. Clerk Demas here. Treasurer Burkhart. Trustee Lentz.
Here.
Trustee Sunland.
Here.
Trustee Trezise.
Here.
Trustee Wilson.
Here.
6 board members present.
Thank you very much. We have 3 presentations this evening. The first are our Volunteers of the Year. And we have Director Courtney Wazinski here to introduce us to our Volunteers of the Year, Missy and Dave Foran. Director Wazinski.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for having us. This is really exciting. I'd like to invite Missy and Dave and Tom Carey, our market manager, up, if you wouldn't mind. And Mel's our new market manager, market assistant too. So Dave and Missy, thank you for being here. Just a few words. First off, Tom Carey, market manager. That's what makes it happen every Wednesday, every Saturday. And not without help, that's for sure, not without help. So Tom and I wanted to nominate Missy and Dave Foran for Volunteers of the Year for 2025. They've been dedicated, most dedicated volunteers to the Meridian Farmers Market that we could ever hope for. They've been instrumental in making the operations of the market more effective and more efficient, and I can attest to that, and I'll tell a story. Starting in October of 2020, the Forans have worked almost every single weekend at the market, has been open year-round, rain or snow, warm or cold, totaling close to 180 days of volunteering at the market alone. I'm sure they do other things. In addition, they've managed the market on one Wednesday and Saturday per year so that our wonderful market manager can have a vacation with his son every once in a while. I personally got to hang out with Missy and Dave when Tom got to go on his annual vacation. We didn't have anybody really to step in, so I said I would do it, and Tom kind of got a weird look on his face. And I think he was happy, but I think he may have talked to our volunteers a little bit and said, really keep an eye on her, because they didn't just show up on Saturday, they showed up on Wednesday that week as well. But I had the opportunity, and thank goodness, because I had a 6-page instruction sheet for each day that I was trying to go through line by line, but Missy and Dave knew what to do and how to do it, so it was just wonderful. Just very dedicated, very patient with the customers, the vendors, that can be challenging at sometimes, but then also just positive and really, really, really efficient in running that business. There's a lot of details to the market, especially in the office. So I'm just very grateful for both of you. And I don't know, Tom, if you want to say anything, but we kind of wrote this together, so.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for all of your time and your dedication and your commitment to the market. And I just, it's been great having you. So thanks so much.
You're very welcome. So. So we do have a certificate here, certificate of appreciation of Missy and Dave Foran. So we usually have 2 Volunteer of the Year awards every year, but it happened that you two were one and one. So Meridian Township wishes to recognize your service as an exceptional volunteers at our Meridian Farmers Market. Thank you for your 5 years of dedication to the residents of Meridian Township. Because of your leadership and dedication, our community remain a prime place to live, work, and play. So there's that. You also are now on the Volunteer of the World Meridian Township Leadership recipient, so 2025, Missy and Dave. So I'm not sure where that's
Usually out in the hall, I think.
it's out front, right? Thank you, Supervisor. And then, on behalf of Parks and Rec, it wouldn't be right if we didn't hand out some swag, a little merch. So we have two Parks and Rec sweatshirts here for you as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, yes.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Board.
And, our community relies on a number of very incredibly dedicated volunteers to continue on in so many ways. And every year we're so thankful to be able to honor 2 of our volunteers. And we appreciate your hard work with the farmers market, and we look forward to many more years to come. So thank you very much. Next this evening is item 4B. We have Communication Manager Sam Deal somewhere around here with a presentation of a couple of checks from an event recently.
You guys want to come on up? Scouts, Chuck. We got a big posse up here tonight.
Scouts up front.
All right, so my name is Samantha Deal. I'm the communications manager for the township, and today I'm here to present 2 checks, one to the Muscular Dystrophy Association and then one for the Meridian Scouts Campership and Scholarship Fund. So this donation comes from money we raised during our 8th annual pancake breakfast, which was back in September. So for those who don't know, this was first started in 2017 as part of the township's 175th anniversary celebration that they did throughout all of 2017. So this event is funded through sponsorships, and then after covering the cost of supplies, we then donate the proceeds earned to the MDA and the Scouts. So to talk about that Scout Fund and kind of what it does for the Scouts, I have Ted Ferris.
Good evening, and thank you, Sam. So we've been having fun doing this since 2017. We got hooked up with the township when I sent an email trying to get some help to advertise our roundups where we try to recruit new kids into scouting. And the reply was, would you be interested in helping us with some of our anniversary stuff for the 175th anniversary? And one of the activities was working with the firefighters and a pancake breakfast. So we said yes. I did, actually. So that's why I'm still standing here. So what we do with the funds is every year we give out campership and scholarships. And the camperships are partial payment to help Scouts go to summer camp or for Cub Scouts to go to day camp or to go to Philmont Scout Ranch. The scholarship is designated for the National Youth Leader Training, which is a part of Scouting. How many in here have been in Scouts? Anybody taken Wood Badge? Okay, so I took Wood Badge in 2001, and as a faculty member at Michigan State, this was far better than any other leadership course I ever took. So part of our interest is to get more of our youth to go through the National Youth Leader Training, which is a week-long summer camp mimicked after the Wood Badge. And so they're learning leadership. They're playing games to instill the skills and so forth. And so by the time they get through the week, they should have some idea of how to run a troop, how to plan at year's events, how to work with a group of individuals and find out who has what talents and how they can work together to solve problems. So when I think about scouting, one of the things that I kind of use as summarizing is when we look at kids, they want three things. They want to feel like they belong. They want to feel like they have some sense of control. And they want to have, at the end of the day, some sense of accomplishment. So think about that and think about where they can pick these things up. So scouting is one of the things that helps with that. While doing that, it builds self-reliance. And so that's not unique to scouting, but that's something scouting's been doing for over 100 years. So we like to be able to give kids the opportunity to go to summer camp. If you've ever gone to summer camp, you probably remember some of the things you did because it's one of those unique youth experiences. So that's one of the reasons why we try to put some of our money towards that as well. So, Chuck, are you going to talk about MDA?
Wait, can you come up here so the viewers can hear you?
I guess I didn't prepare anything, but.
You tell them who it is. It's not the Michigan Department bag.
Right, it's the Muscular Dystrophy Association. It's kind of the chosen charity for the IAFF. It goes towards research and to help out families and those that suffer from ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. So, you might recognize it from the Fill the Boot campaign that fire departments usually do. And that's pretty much kind of what MDA is. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll hand it to you, okay? So first we have the Muscular Dystrophy Association check, which I'm going to award here, $250. Yeah. And then for the Scouts, we have in the amount of $1,544.26.
Wow.
There you go. And we'll take a photo out there. So do you have any questions at all?
Good job. Thank you so much. This is a great event. If you haven't been to it, keep an eye out next September. It's always a good time. So thank you so much for your participation, to our scouts and to our firefighters as well, and everyone who was involved in making that happen. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go out there and take a photo.
Merry Christmas. You probably don't have one.
No, I don't.
Yeah. Well, and there's maybe I think one more. Too.
All right, next on our agenda this evening is item 4C, the introduction of a new police officer. We have Assistant Chief, Mr. Crane. Welcome.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope well. I really appreciate you having me here and this opportunity that I have to introduce Jordan to you today. As you know, we've been working hard to fill our ranks and get as many officers as we can. One thing that we've never done is we've never dropped our standards at all. In fact, our standards have gone up quite a bit. I've talked to Jordan now for several months as we were going through this hiring process, and even before he officially joined the hiring process. Jordan has been a police officer in Michigan for approximately 8 years. He comes to us from the Flint area. He has a plethora of training, a lot of experience. He's one of those guys that just likes to train and train and train and train so that he's the best when he can do it. Jordan's really good at talking to people. He's been showing us that this week so far. And, you know, it's just a pleasure to find somebody like Jordan that we wanted to work for our organization. We wanted him to work with us as much as he wanted to work here. Through the hiring process, I think we were the only organization that he was looking at in the Lansing area. So we welcome Jordan Tuttle. to our organization as our newest police officer, and I introduce him to you now.
Please.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
He speaks a lot.
Meridian Township.
He didn't add that you were funny, because I heard you Monday.
Welcome to the team.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is item 5, citizens address agenda items and non-agenda items. There are several opportunities for public comment at tonight's meeting. Members of the public who wish to address our agenda or any item not on our agenda have an opportunity to do so at the beginning of the meeting now, as well as at the end of the meeting. Those who wish to address the board must complete a green card located on the table near the door and present it to the board or a member of the township staff. When it's your turn, I'll call you up to the podium to speak to the topics indicated. And while it's not required, we do ask that you please provide your name and address for the sake of our meeting minutes at the beginning of your remarks. Citizens are required to limit comments to 3 minutes. An automated system will keep track of the time, and an indicator light and audible beep will alert you when your time has expired. Members of the board value comment and input from our public. The meeting format and rules, however, do restrict board members from engaging in conversation with commenters or answering questions directly. Questions and concerns may be addressed by board members at a later time or referred to a member of the staff to follow up on. Please address all comments to the board or the board's chair and not to individual members, board members or those in the audience. With that said, we have several green cards this evening. If you would like to speak at public comments and have not yet, please fill out a green card and return it to us as soon as you can. First up this evening is David Klock, followed by Christina Klock.
Thanks.
Hi there. Thank you for letting me speak. Dave Klock, 4538 Seneca. I am speaking on behalf of the special use permit, Feedable Holdings, number 2520. And I respectfully request that the special use permit basically be, if there's a way to resend that back to the planning commission, just to address a number of the issues that are in the packet that the commission reviewed and is in your packet. And it says in there that the project is designed and constructed to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the surrounding community. We've said that a number of times. We don't think it is. The project will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the surrounding properties. You know, we think that's false. Again, a house for sale adjacent to the property was not getting any offers. They took the home off the market. So it does have an impact on the surrounding community in a negative way. And then, again, the water issues, the township engineer had mentioned about backfilling the western half of the property, which is going to raise that and create basically a flooding effect where water can't drain off our property and the water there will drain onto our property. So we haven't had water issues since we moved there 25 years ago, and we just don't want to see anything related to water issues in our backyards. So just respectfully request that the special use permit take those items into consideration, maybe send it back to the planning commission for more work, more research, and through that whole analysis process. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Christina Klock, pardon me, and then Beth Bechtel.
Christina Klock in opposition of SUP 2520. This development all stems from the master plan update of 2023, which was implemented in a manner inconsistent with the Michigan Planning Enabling Act and the Equal Protection Clause of both the Michigan and U.S. constitutions. Specifically, the notice procedures applied to impacted properties was unequal, depriving landowners of a fair opportunity to participate. When due process is violated, as was clearly the case here, the master plan must go back to the Planning Commission for amendment and all zoning arising from it considered procedurally invalid. If the board chooses to approve an SUP, which stems from a master plan that denied citizens equal protection and access, it could be construed as a violation of the board members' fiduciary duties under the law. Beyond this argument, Section 86-126 of the Township Ordinance requires an SUP be compliant with the standards that are listed, which this SUP is not, specifically numbers 3 through 8. Homes directly to the east and west of this property are two-story buildings. Multifamily housing bordering the north is only 2 stories. This proposal contains 3-story buildings. Aerotree Apartments are northeast of this property, proposed development, do not border this property and should be considered irrelevant to this proposal. For the last several years, neighbors have consistently warned Meridian Township and the trustees about the dangers of drainage issues should this property be developed as densely as proposed. Noise and light pollution from this development will excessively impact neighbors to the east and west, from dumpsters to road lights directly in windows. The developer recently said lights would not be an issue because the back buffer is, quote, heavily wooded. However, in his rezoning application, this very same area was described as mostly scrub, which is it. It is disheartening to have no one question the multiple inconsistencies and inaccuracies provided regarding this property and by this developer. As another example, on 7/8 of 24, the developer wrote a letter to the township stating, quote, "We agree to add trees and fencing along the back property line of the neighbors in the rear." He also promised that none of the buildings would be more than 3 stories. Why is none of this being questioned? This proposed development has already negatively impacted surrounding property values and the ability to sell bordering homes. This development is not adequately served by drainage, sewer, or roads. It will require multiple easements to build new drainage lines, sewer lines, and driveways. The new drainage and sewer lines will require further destruction of forested land and neighborhoods beyond the initial 4.2 acres that were rezoned. This area contains trees which are several hundred years old and will result in further destruction of natural habitat and natural resources.
Thank you. Beth Bechtel and Robert Matko is on deck.
Beth Bechtel, Hazlet, Michigan. I provided the following public comments at last month's Environmental Commission monthly meeting on Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. Dear Meridian Township Board members and environmental commissioners, I respectfully ask that Meridian Township ensure health and safety policies and procedures are developed for solar panels and battery energy to prevent local brownfield toxic industrial waste and to protect and safeguard Meridian Township residents' health from toxic heavy metals and other toxic materials. Solar panels contain the toxic heavy metals lead, aluminum, tin, cadmium, and other toxic materials. Batteries contain the toxic heavy metals mercury, lead, cadmium, nickel, lithium, cobalt, graphite, etc. As a result, at the federal level, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, has end-of-life solar panels regulations and management and battery disposal policies. At a local level, nearby St. Clair County, Michigan, has health department regulations pertaining to solar panels and battery energy pollution and decommissioning. Additionally, in May 2025, the potato growers of Michigan released a public statement urging, I quote, policymakers, developers, and communities to prioritize solar siting on rooftops, end quote. Also in this public statement, quote, one critical concern relates to food safety. When solar panels and systems are eventually removed, small fragments of plastic and metal remain in the soil, end quote. With the very serious concern of solar panels and batteries generating the pollution of excessive industrial toxic waste that contaminates through releasing these toxic heavy metals into the soil, land, and waterways, the questions to be asked are as follows. Number one, what are Meridian Township's policies and procedures to ensure that all current and future solar panels will be placed and installed on building rooftops and off of our pristine township soil and land to minimize and eliminate soil, land, and water pollution and contamination? Number two, what are Meridian Township's policies and procedure to ensure proper decommissioning of solar panels and or batteries to return our land and our properties within the township to their useful and natural condition prior to what existed before solar panels and battery installation and construction, specifically detailing and including the removal of all above and below surfaces infrastructure. Number three, what are Meridian Township's policies and procedures to prevent and eliminate all audio and visual pollution created by solar panels and battery installation and construction? Number four, what are Meridian Township's policies and procedures to properly and responsibly recycle solar panels and batteries at the end of product life? It is ideal that local Meridian Township lead our state and nation with solar panels and battery energy health and safety policies and procedures, which is both expected and welcomed by our community residents. Again, please, I respectfully ask that Meridian Township ensure these health and safety policies and procedures for solar panels and batteries are developed to safeguard our township residents' health. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Matko, and then Josh Nahum, you're on deck.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Robert Matko, and I'm here representing and in support of the Feedable Homes project. Specifically, I performed the traffic analysis for this development, and what I'd like to do is, again, just briefly go over and quickly summarize the traffic that we analyzed and the impact that this development would have. So I'd like to, I guess, make a point that what we're talking about here, trip generation wise, is a total of 6 trips inbound in an AM peak hour. You know, we're looking at 18 outbound trips during the AM peak hour. In the PM peak hour, we're looking at 15 inbound trips and a total of 8 outbound trips. That's during the PM peak hour. So to put that in layman's terms, we're looking at about 1 trip every 10 minutes in the AM peak hour for inbound traffic. For outbound traffic, we're looking at 1 exiting trip every 3.3 minutes. During the PM peak hour, again, that equates to 1 trip every 4 minutes for inbound traffic. And again, outbound traffic, we're looking at 1 trip every 7.5 minutes. So in the scheme of things, you know, I'm not gonna, stand here and tell you that Dobie Road is A-level service and whatnot, but what I am here to tell you is the impact of this development is minimal. It is not going to generate a significant amount of trips. So what you're hearing in terms of, traffic and whatnot, could be that just 1 trip might be too much for some of the local residents. But what I wanted to do is just put that in layman's terms. Again, the analysis we performed followed local and national state guidelines. This analysis would be done not only here in the township, but also if the Michigan Department of Transportation required an analysis, this similar type of analysis would be done for them as well. So based on my experience, my expertise, again, I just wanted to relay the important point that, again, the traffic that this development will generate is minimal in nature. And appreciate your time tonight, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Josh Nahum, and then Bradley Shaw is on deck.
Josh Nahum, 1517 River Terrace Drive. I wanted to speak actually in support of the SUP 2025. The federal holdings one. I've been attending the planning commission meetings, and I saw the hours of testimony by neighbors as well as by other interested parties, and I saw all of the deliberation that the planning commission made there. And obviously, I can't speak for the planning commission because I was just watching, but I just wanted to say that I really appreciated how much time, thought, and effort went into the consideration of the special use permit, including the ultimate decision to recommend that the board adopt the special use permit. I also was here for the previous board meeting where this was discussed, and with the many testimonies from the neighbors. And I feel that with all that was discussed, I feel that it's still, even though it might have some adverse consequences on like the immediate neighbors, I think it's important to allow that landowners be able to develop their properties, especially high-density housing, which is something that I think Meridian Township really desperately needs now more than ever, given increasing costs of rent and home ownership. And I'm all in favor of new development and increasing the density of our existing housing property. So just speaking in support of the special use permit, but regardless of your decision, I appreciate all the deliberation you guys have made on the nature of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Bradley Shaw, and then Jerry Fido, you're on deck.
Thank you, Brad Shaw, 4504 Dobie Road, regarding the 2520 SUP. We have a plan here for a new church road defined as a public right-of-way on private property zoned RD, where the developer claims the same acreage as part of a residential project. No clever wordplay or overt deception frees the township from this awkward mess. The staff report correctly includes the new church driveway, yet the resolution before you tonight contains no mention of a church or church driveway. When questioned about what ordinance would be used by me last month, the only thing that was done was you removed all reference to any ordinance in the resolution before you. Okay? No improvement of information, just a jump under the desk. What about ordinances 58, 35, 38, and 51? Has staff reviewed those ordinances relative to this project? Thank you for correcting the master plan issue. The deletion that you made in the current resolution includes development complies with a master plan. You had to take that out because it's no longer true, okay? Thank you. We've been working on that for about a year, but it's not compliant. You also struck in this most recent resolution, development conforms to the conditions of the March 2025 rezoning. You had to strike that because you have not responded to what buildable acreage you have. The developer has permanently relinquished development rights to the acreage under the church driveway. You don't know the frontage, you don't know the acreage. You can't even state that this is compliant with your zoning. The timeline, your rezoning amendment says that the zoning will go back to RAA on April 2027. You cannot, in this SUP, give rights beyond that date without being clear that this rezoning may be rescinded by April 2027. You mentioned a 35-foot height limitation on the buildings, as if you know what that means, right? The developer has given you no elevations, no contours of any kind in this site map. You have no idea where that 35-foot starts. You have no idea how high that gets up on the property because the developer has not provided you with enough information to do a reasonable job of assessing this project. The property does slope from 886 feet to 873 feet from Dobie Road on back. Don't wait to go down to, don't put all the pressure on the drain commissioner. You can make a decision tonight to do a better job and make the developer come back to you with information that you can actually make a reasonable decision on.
Thank you very much. Jerry Fedewa, and then Brett Stockhill is up next. And then that would be our last green card. If anyone else in the public wishes to address the board, please complete a green card at this time.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jerry Fedewa. We're the applicant for the SUP on Dobie Road. And we've been working on this project for some time, as you know. If that, I believe that we're expected to have this project built by April of 27, which means that we really better get moving on the project. And so before, what we had done was we brought back our traffic engineer and our actual civil engineer who will be talking about water and water issues and his dealings with the drain department and how they've been working together. We've established that we've already recorded an easement for this property that is goes along the church property to the back of a dead-end street that the name of it eludes me. You guys might know the name of that street. Oneida, thank you. That comes up and dead ends into the church property. And we've been in discussions with Giannis about utilities running back there. We do have our stormwater going back there, which Brett Stockhill might speak more about. And we also have possibly the sanitary sewer and possibly the water line. We have to, working through issues out on Dobie Road on exactly where the water tap is and where the sanitary sewer tap is. But that's still in the process because Brett has been waiting to start working on the actual engineered drawings. And he's waiting to find out how this meeting turns out. And so then we would be moving forward to our next step. But just as a reminder from historically, we started out with a 64-unit project on the 4 acres, which fit inside the zoning requirement. It's been reduced to 32 units. And it's been pushed all the way to the front of the property, meaning the Dobie Road side of the property, so that the closest unit is over 100 feet from any of the backyard of the residents on Seneca. And I would just hope that you folks would approve this special use permit and get us moved forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brett Stockhill?
Yes, I'm Brett Stockhill, and in disclosure, I am the engineer for the project, and I'd really just address 4 items that I really have heard today. Yes, there will have to be clearing on the project because it is a vacant parcel. Nobody wants a development in their backyard, but nobody wants to buy a vacant parcel to preserve it. So we're into a development that's going to both bring in new units and for a vacancy-starved community. So with that, utilities are readily accessible. Water is water and sewer are both accessible off of Dobie Road and off of Oneida in Seneca. So there's options available depending on what Giannis determines in the full engineering plans. The other is, I heard lighting. The Meridian Township lighting ordinance is very strict as downward lighting. So there is not a lighting issue as far as bleeding onto other properties. There are not street lights going down the main corridor. That is just a non-issue. The last issue would be stormwater. Yes, it's controlled by the County Drain Commission. They have a very strict ordinance of 1/10 of a cubic foot per second, which is a teaspoon as what runs off now, undeveloped. They don't want their system overloaded. So they control this very, very strictly. And our stormwater would be going to Seneca through an easement. There is a county drain right at the back corner of the Oneida vacant right-of-way and the church parcel that we can tie into. And we'll have a detention pond on site in more towards the Dobie Road just because of the elevation differences. So we'll have all our detention towards Dobie Road in the frontage and sides of the property that would then be controlled, restricted, and the outlet extremely restricted going towards the Oneida, which would be, I think it is the Oneida Drainage District. But once again, that's totally controlled by the county. And so stormwater runoff is not an issue. Everybody loves to complain about it. It's done every day. Every one of your developments has it, and it works wonderful. That's the system. And if anybody had any questions, they can feel free to call me. I can discuss it. But as far as I can tell, everything is in control. It's everything that's done every day, and there doesn't seem to be any conflicts. So I will yield the time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Seeing none, public comment is closed at 6:38 p.m. Next on our agenda is item 6, the Township Manager Report. Manager Dempsey.
Yeah, thank you Supervisor Hendrickson. Good evening, board members. So the first couple things I want to touch on are just reminders for the community. The first one being our last listening session, the board's last listening session for 2025 is coming up next Thursday, November 13th. It's at 6 p.m. at 242 Community Center at 2630 Bennett Road. So we encourage residents to come out and participate in that. If they had a chance to come, they can certainly come again, or for those that haven't had an opportunity to come to the other two, we'd love to see our residents there. There's also an online form. If people can't make it, they can submit questions through that as well on the township's website. Another one is just a sort of an alert or warning to residents. We have had some scammers who have been trying to mimic township officials through email, so trying to solicit them, through what are becoming more sophisticated phishing attempts. We've seen a number of attempts where people try to get payments made to them. Again, people posing as township officials. So if people get an email that doesn't look right, please call the township offices and talk to somebody before you ever try to submit a payment that you're not unsure about or unfamiliar with. So we encourage folks to just be diligent because, again, the scammers are getting more sophisticated all the time. And then a couple of recognitions I want to make with respect to staff. As we're sort of winding down the construction season out in the township, our engineering team has responded to many, many calls this summer. Oftentimes, we get calls from residents who are dealing with some utilities that we don't control, in particular our telecommunications utilities. So think of your Comcast, your AT&Ts, your Metronets. When they're installing their infrastructure, a lot of times we have some challenges and issues with restoration. And our team, led by Giannis Shrady and then Denise Green, who's our admin assistant, who gets a lot of these calls, they work with the rest of our project engineers and project technicians who go out in the community and do a lot of work to resolve those issues and to get people's yards back in shape and to address them. We had a number just this week, so just appreciate all the effort that they've made this construction season. And certainly want to thank our fire department for last evening. We had a pretty tragic house fire, no injuries, but significant damage to a home in our community last night. Around 4 a.m. call, our fire department was on site, addressed that. Again, nobody was injured. We're thankful for that, but significant impact to a family in our community. So thanks to our first responders for their swift action and stepping in last evening to address that issue. And that's it for me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board members, any questions of Manager Dempsey? Clerk Demas.
I just want to thank you, Manager Dempsey, for bringing attention to the scam emails that have been going around. I know my name was used throughout that scam, and I'm not here to ask anyone for money. That is not my department. So please just be aware of that. And our email address, it will be at meridian.mi.us. So just looking at some of those indicators just to make sure. And just thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we move on to agenda item 7, board member reports of activities and announcements. Any board members with reports this evening? Trustee Sunland.
Yes. Okay, so I attended the Economic Development Corporation meeting this morning. It was very early. Anyway, and we voted on it. Everybody continues to want to have the 7:30 meeting because they need to get to work. So anyway, what we talked about is we had our first application for the reimbursement. Oh gosh, what is the name of it? Facade improvement reimbursement. Yes. So we're happy about that. We are hoping that that spurs on activity to do for other people to recognize that this program is a good program. The reimbursement was $6,500 for this builder, and it was half the price that they would have normally paid. So this is a great program. Also talked about our EDC calendar for the year. We set dates, and we talked about no, that was pretty much it. We talked about a new connector to Oh, no, we talked about a meeting that's going on November 20th from 5 to 7 p.m. It's the Grand River Connector Program. So anyway, and that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Other board members, Clerk Demas?
Yeah, just an update. So Tuesday was election day for many areas across the state and country. And while Meridian Township did not have a November election this year, I do want to thank staff for helping to inform voters of this information and assisting with voter questions. Also, my next democracy class is on Monday, November 17th at 6 p.m. And that will be located at the Okemos Library.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Trustee Lentz.
Thank you. Last night was the Meridian Township Environmental Commission meeting, which I'm a liaison of, discussed climate sustainability fund proposals, which, you know, as some on the board might remember, came about from tree plantings early on. And so there's about $21,000 to be spent on various projects. That board is considering a number of options that were brought forward. And I think there's a real chance for some exciting wayfinding and educational signage around the township. I also want to give a shout out to John Sarver. There was a resolution made last night, but he retired from the Environmental Commission after 11 years on that board. As we all know, those citizen commissions really do a lot of the work that make this community a good place, and 11 years of service on that board, he will be missed. And then lastly, to Parrot Manager Dempsey, I just by happenstance was one of the first people around after a crash last night on M78, and I got to hand it to our police and fire who were very quick in responding and helped a few people who were in a very bad way. So thank you to our emergency service staff.
Thank you. I'll add to what Trustee Lentz said. We also had a member of our planning commission resign, Bill, no, I'm sorry, Bill Fowler is his name, pardon me. I've known him for years, and it's just one of those blanks when you get it in front of your head. And I bring it up to mention that we do have a number of vacancies on our boards and commissions throughout all of the areas of interest in our township. And as we heard about a couple of our volunteers earlier, we do rely very heavily on the hard work that they do on our boards and commissions as well. And so if you're interested in serving on, as a member of one of our appointed boards and commissions, you can find the application on our website, which is meridian.mi.us. So take a look there. We're always happy to have excited, interested folks serving our community. So this is a great way to do just that. I'll continue on with my update. Mine's relatively minimal. I had the opportunity along with my family to attend the Meridian Township Spooktacular on Thursday, October 30th, which was put on by our Parks and Recreation Department. And it was a delight. There were several hundred kids and their families present to take part in the festivities. The Grinch did his best opportunity to try and steal Halloween from everyone. Don't ask me why, but it's a recurring theme. And there was a performance from School of Rock, which is always exciting and fun to hear some very talented youth who are out with, sharing their music with the world. And so I was very happy to have been able to attend that last Thursday. And so with that, are there any other board members with activities and announcements this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 8, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda this evening? Yes, Trustee Wilson.
Move to approve the agenda.
Support. Okay, it's been moved by Trustee Wilson and supported by Trustee Lentz. I would ask if we could, there was a memorandum at our places this evening that the staff has asked us to add. It is timely to our consent agenda as item 9J. which is the placement of delinquent special assessments, utilities, and false alarms, unpaid lot mowing, code violations, and miscellaneous fees on the winter tax roll for 2025. We'd ask that the motion maker consider a friendly amendment to add item 9J to the agenda. Trustee Wilson, would you consider that friendly?
Yes, I would consider that a friendly amendment.
Trustee Lentz?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So we'll add that. So officially, this will be a motion to amend the agenda to add, motion to pass the agenda as amended. Then, all those in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. And we'd ask that we add this to the packet for posterity so that this is there when people go back to review it in the future. Next on our agenda is item 9, the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for the, oh, I'm sorry, we've got a number of items on the consent agenda this evening. I should probably talk about them like I always do. Included in the consent agenda this evening, we have our communications with the Township Board. We have our meeting minutes. We have the regular meeting minutes from our October 21st meeting. We also have at your places, board members, the closed session meeting minutes from our October 21st closed session. If you'd like to take a moment to review those in your manila folders. We also have the bills. We have a meeting calendar for 2026. We have the treasurer's quarterly report for last quarter. We have 3 contract renewals with Brightline IT and 1 with the Go-To Technologies USA contract, as well as the item that we just added, the delinquent assessments, utilities, and et cetera. So do we have a motion for the consent agenda this evening? Clerk Demas.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, it's been moved by Clerk Demas.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Trezise. Any discussion on the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none, will Clerk Demas please call the roll?
Clerk Demas, yes. Trustee Lentz?
Yes.
Trustee Sunland?
Yes.
Trustee Trezise?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Hendrickson?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much. Board members, if you could please turn your manila folders into Clerk Demas if you haven't already. We got them. Okay, perfect. Look at that. Ahead of the game. All righty. Next on our agenda is item 10A, special use permit number 2521, St. Martha Parish and School, 1100 West Grand River, to construct an addition to a building over 25,000 square feet. And we have for this evening, Community Planning and Development Director Tim Schmidt. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you very much, sir. This is the second time the board has reviewed this. This is a request from St. Martha's Parish and School to add onto the existing building at 1100 West Grand River Avenue, roughly in the northwest corner of the building. So you can see on the inset map, we're on the back side of the building away from Grand River, largely screened from the public view. This will be additional classroom lab storage space for the school itself. The Planning Commission reviewed this at their September 22nd meeting and had no major comment or public input, and ultimately recommended approval at their October 13th meeting. And as I previously mentioned, the board reviewed this at their October 21st meeting. There was general consensus to move forward. Staff has provided the special use permit criteria in your packet this evening, and I would encourage you to utilize those criteria in your discussion as you move forward with this, and have provided you with a recommended resolution and a motion to approve the special use permit as presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Board members, any discussion or motions to be made at this time on the special use permit number 2521? Trustee Wilson.
I will make a motion, which we can discuss. Move to adopt the resolution approving special use permit 25-21, a request from St. Martha's Parish and School to expand the existing building that is greater than 25,000 square feet by 11,000 square feet to accommodate an expansion to the school. The property is located at 1100 West Grand River, parcel ID number 33-02-02-23-476-001, and is zoned rural RR rural residential.
It's been moved by Trustee Wilson. Does it have a support?
Support.
Supported by trustee Trezise. Discussion on this topic, trustee Wilson.
There is sufficient property for this addition. It's not going to impinge on any adjacent properties. It's appropriate under the use, even though it's rural residential, this is a permitted use of a church and a school. I saw nothing that was problematic with this application, and therefore I will support it.
Thank you. Trustee Trezise.
I agree with everything trustee Wilson said. This looks like an excellent addition. It's sort of couched behind the existing building there, will not even be an eyesore from Grand River Avenue, and allows them to use their property appropriately for education and church use.
Thank you. Other discussion? Clerk Demas.
So as previously discussed, this special use permit would have little impact on neighboring areas. Also, that's what trustee Wilson mentioned. And it seems to meet the criteria presented. I think that this will also benefit the school with more space for learning, so I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Okay. I agree. I think that, this is obviously an expansion of an existing use. And we know that it is, of course, served already by the utilities and whatnot, and we're not going to have any additional issues with that. We know that it is not going to have an impact on the surrounding area. We certainly appreciate that. And will not have any issues that I can see with any of the criteria that we use to identify whether or not this meets our review standards. So for those reasons, I'll be supporting this evening. Seeing no other discussion, this matter has been moved by trustee Wilson and supported by trustee Trezise to approve the resolution that's in our packet approving special use permit 2521. Clerk Demas, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Lentz.
Yes.
Trustee Sunland.
Yes.
Trustee Trezise.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Supervisor Hendrickson.
Yes.
Clerk Demas, yes. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much. We've been at this for an hour. I'd ask that we take a brief 5-minute recess before we get into our next agenda item, unless there's any objection. We'll see you in 5 minutes. All right. We said 5 minutes, it's been 7. We'll bring ourselves back to order at 7:02. Next on our agenda is special use permit 2520, Fedewa Builders, 4601 Dobie Road, to construct a group of buildings larger than 25,000 square feet. Before us, once again, we have Community Planning and Development Director Tim Schmidt.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Schmidt.
sir. Request in front of you, as mentioned, is from Fedewa Holdings to construct 4 buildings totaling greater than 25,000 square feet on the property at 4601 Dobie Road. This is the northern portion of the Faith Lutheran Church property previously, has been sold at this point. They would be building this in compliance with the conditions of the conditional rezoning that were previously approved by the board, increasing the rear setback on the western property line from 40 feet to 100 feet, and restricting the development on the site to no more than 4 buildings with 8 units in each building. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and has had a substantial amount of public feedback on this project. Their public hearing was on the September 22nd, and they ultimately recommended approval to the board on October 13th. The Township Board then discussed this on October 21st and had a number of questions. And I'm just going to briefly follow up on a couple of them that were outstanding. First and foremost, I want to point out that this this is in compliance with the master plan. We followed the proper notice procedures of the master plan. The comment that we provided specific notice outside of the normal realm was not related to the future land use map. It was an obvious Scrivener's error on the urban service boundary map that split 2 properties in half. And so at the Planning Commission's request, we reached out to the specific property owners and asked them, do they want to be in or out? It has no bearing on anything, but we just want to clean up the map. And so that was the notice that we provided. There was nothing related to the future land use map. But to follow up on the board's comments from the last meeting, I want to briefly touch on the height of the buildings because that's come up a couple times. If you look in the area, there's a number of heights of buildings from in both Arrow Tree and in the Chief Oakland Circle area. You see what is a traditional garden apartment, which is sort of half-story below, half-story above grade, and then 2 stories above in most cases. You see several 2-story buildings, and you see buildings that appear to be 3 stories. And so staff has reviewed this, and should the board choose to move forward this evening, we have recommended 2 conditions of approval to specifically address the height, which I'll get to in a minute. Secondly, and I know the applicant's traffic engineer was here and discussed sort of the nuts and bolts of the traffic study, but at the supervisor's request, we did look at sort of the zero-based assumption of comparing proposed to nothing, which is, again, I would reiterate, not sort of our normal course of action, because then traffic becomes the cudgel to deny everything, because everything is an increase over 0. But for comparison's sake, the peak hour traffic would be approximately 33 cars in the morning and 34 in the afternoon. So roughly 1 per unit, which is roughly consistent with what we would expect to see for a residential type development. Someone leaves in the morning for work, someone comes home in the evening for work. And so that would not change the level of service at that point. Again, this study doesn't get into the broader traffic network, as we talked about at the last meeting, of whether or not Dobie and Hamilton, Dobie Grand River, things of that nature come into play. That would be something that potentially the road department looks at down the road once we get the site plan, but that is not the discussion we're at. Again, and additionally, the Ingham County Drain Commissioner's Office will be involved once we get to site plan review. This is sort of the previous step to where the detailed engineering gets done and gets reviewed by all of the agencies that are involved with the project. So we have, again, provided all of the review criteria for the special use permit. I would strongly encourage the board to review and discuss that as you're deliberating over this process. Given that there was no direct direction provided to staff, we've provided you with both a motion to approve and a resolution to approve and a motion to deny and a resolution to deny. Briefly on the motion to approve, I just want to point out several of the conditions. In both cases, we would strongly encourage the board to include their reasons for the decision on the record, but specific to the motion to approve, all the conditions that we would normally see are there. The plans that were submitted, any future changes require an amendment, all the conditions of the rezoning are still in place, the time frame, et cetera. The three that I want to point out are that no construction on the site, again, shall begin until all approvals of the drain commissioner and the road department have been granted, just to reiterate that that's going to happen. All buildings on the site shall be no more than 2.5 stories or less, and all buildings on the site shall be 35 feet tall or less. The ordinance states all buildings, no building shall be constructed greater than 2.5 stories or 35 feet. It's very clear. And so to reiterate, 3-story building would not be permitted on the site, and that is well within the board's right to reiterate, given that it is in the ordinance, and it as part of a bulk height area review of a special use permit. And so we're happy to discuss any of these further as you review both the resolutions. Again, I would encourage you to utilize the special use permit standards on page 173 and 174 of your packet in your review.
Thank you very much. Board members, any discussion on this topic? Trustee Trezise.
Yeah, you're talking about the 35 feet. There was a question how it gets measured. That is specified in the ordinance.
Absolutely.
So it is not subject to a whim. It is clearly spelled out as to how you measure and what constitutes 35 feet.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
And this is simply, this SUP is for the total square footage of the buildings. It is not a site plan approval. It is not an approval to go with what they have there. That is all subject to engineering approval from the planning or the staff here, as well as the drain commissioner, the road commission. All of that would have to be involved in getting approval before they could put a shovel in the ground.
Not to mention the building department as well.
Yes, I meant your building department.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, thank you.
Trustee Wilson.
So this parcel is in compliance with the master plan.
Again, the master plan designates the majority of the parcel as multifamily, and the remainder is institutional because no one knew where that line was going to be. And so it was roughly the northern third was modified to be multifamily. That was clearly the intent, is to allow multifamily development on the vacant northern portion of the Faith Lutheran property.
And the driveway to the church is going to be moved because it is part of this parcel at this time, correct?
Correct, and staff has, tossed this around internally. At a minimum, it's going to require a site plan amendment to the church because, again, road department's going to have to sign off on this. We do not believe it will require a SUP amendment to the church, but even if it did, that's a minor amendment under the code, and it's something that we'd handle administratively.
Okay. And both parties have agreed that is going to be done as part of this arrangement.
Part of the site plan review process that's going to have to happen.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Trezise.
Yeah, I had another question that Martin just reminded me of. Why is this driveway characterized as a public road?
It is not.
What was the statement? I don't understand the statement that the gentleman made, that it's just going to be a private drive.
It's an access drive to a parking lot on a private property.
Is this on church property, or is it going to be on the parcel that we're talking about?
The new drive.
The new drive.
The new drive will be it will be partially it will be mostly on the Fedewa property, but it then curves onto the church property as you get to the south.
Does that impact the amount of units that they can build on that by removing it from buildable area, from square footage?
No, the number of units on this property was set by the conditional rezoning. So because of the way this was approved from a rezoning perspective, that dictates the number of units by itself. Certainly, if we were having a conversation without that, it would be a much different conversation if we were talking about a yield plan and trying to get a sense of what they could build and how does that play in. But given that this site has a specific condition that limits the number of units, the driveway has no bearing on the discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Clerk Demas.
As a new board member, I would just like a bit more understanding of the review criteria, how we determine whether something meets our criteria or if it doesn't, particularly when it comes to whether a project will be detrimental to the economic welfare of surrounding areas, the properties or the community, as well as adversely affect or be hazardous to existing neighborhood uses.
Yeah, so, how, this is the fundamental nature of a special use permit, right? These are discretionary type standards that every board member may weigh one versus another as being more important or less important, right? So typically, focusing on those two, right? The hazardous, typically when something is hazardous, you're really looking at like an industrial process or, a restaurant that's going to put off a barbecue places often have problems with a standard like that. I had one at a previous job where just the smoke very much was just heading towards a residential neighborhood, right? It became a problem. And so for something to be hazardous, there needs to be really a tangible issue associated with it that we believe that this project would create, right? Similar thing when you get into the detriment to the economic welfare, right? How would a project like this negatively impact financially a neighboring property or the community as a whole? I could say as a general rule, almost no project that we would see in a community like this is going to negatively impact us as a whole, right? Because you're adding taxable value at modern construction rates at current tax values, right? So broadly in Michigan, construction benefits the community financially. There would have to be some reason why after we've provided additional setback and limited the height of the building, et cetera, that this would be having a negative impact on the surrounding properties. At this time, staff hasn't identified anything, but certainly if the board identifies a concern, it's something we could review.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you explaining that, especially because I am new to this process, but we have had special use permits come to the board, so it's nice to review this criteria. I do want to consider our residents' concerns, and I wanted to ask a few questions about the building heights. You mentioned earlier how your staff looked into whether this would follow the ordinance, I believe. And I just want to understand, so if this is 3 stories, would that follow our ordinance or not?
It would not. The current standards are 2.5 stories and 35 feet, and that's why we have suggested that should the board choose to approve this evening, you make it explicit as part of the conditions of approval.
Okay.
That is a condition that is well within your purview under a bulk height area review of a special use permit.
Okay. Have we heard any updates about the dumpster relocation? I know we talked about it last time.
Yeah, we have not. That's a detail that we'll get into a site plan. It will not be in the location it's at. I can commit to that.
Have we heard anything from the Drain Commission regarding drainage concerns from residents?
We have not, nor would I expect. Yeah.
And then lastly, about traffic, maybe this is more towards board members here. While this increase may not be significant enough to outright deny the permit, I think that it should still be considered as a safety risk because with increase of traffic, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we also see increases of, safety risks with cars, vehicles, speeding. And so I just want to understand what the process has looked like in the past with considering traffic and whether you believe that this would continue with this project.
Well, I can try to offer some insight into, how we've considered this in the past, and others are welcome to join in too. Typically, any additional traffic can lead to some increase, in concern over safety. Generally, we look at, how the number of vehicles that are added to the load of the roads will impact the overall level of service of those roads, as we are considering a special use permit. That's sort of what the traffic studies bring to the table. They tell us whether or not an intersection becomes untenable or unsafe as a part of that. And so that's usually how we consider it. And I believe at the level of service, can you talk about what that means from a traffic study perspective, Director Schmidt?
Yes, and as long as the traffic engineer doesn't yell at me for mangling this. So as a general rule, the level of service is how efficiently the intersection is functioning, given the number of vehicles that are traveling through the intersection over a period of time. And so you obviously want to be an A, B, or C. You want to pass as opposed to a D or an F where you fail. It's same type of structure we're used to dealing with, having gone to school for years. And so generally when you get to a delay point that is higher than a threshold, it drops a level of service, right? And so if you add enough cars, inevitably your intersections will drop from an A to a B to a C to a D to an F, right? F is, you're waiting for extended periods of time, multiple light cycles, you aren't able to make turns, things like that. Generally, we don't have a lot of that in the township. I mean, our intersections function pretty well on normal due course. Obviously, I would point out Okemos and Hamilton being the one that obviously needs some work because, the other day I was actually in the traffic circle and all of a sudden I'm still in the traffic circle because the traffic's backed up. But that's the kind of backup that you would see at a lower level of service.
So it doesn't really reflect the safety aspect so much. It's literally just time and efficiency.
Level of service is generally time and efficiency.
Sure. So that's more or less how we've considered it in the past is, sort of how many additional cars do we put into it and how does that tax the roads around it?
I just wanted to know more about that because I know we're not going to have a full traffic study. And if we were, it would be after the board takes action. So I share concerns about the intersection traffic there. So I wanted to hear more about how we look into that with special use permits. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Trustee Sunland.
I just wanted to mention, I've been on the board since 2016, and so I see issues come and go, and this issue did come up in the past, but the builder wanted to put many new buildings or many new homes on that site, so we denied it in the past. Now, it appears only 8 units, 16 units is considerably less than what they were proposing.
8 per building, so
32. Yeah, so 32 is substantially less than what the proposal was many years ago. And so I would be willing to approve this based on the number of buildings.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Trustee Lentz?
Yeah, we've talked about this building project before and considering the questions that Director Schmidt has answered previously, the fact that it is master plan compliant, I am inclined to support this project considering the concessions that the builder has made along the lines of that increased setback so that neighbors can feel that they still have the backyard that they're hoping to have. With that said, I would, when our master plan comes up next, I would like to figure out a way to make sure that our communication with surrounding areas surrounding potential change do feel as holistically included as possible. I'm not necessarily prescribing one direction or another on that, but I think this could alleviate a lot of neighbors who feel that things are sprung upon them in a way that they are unaware of. So, but that is not to say that this project isn't well thought out, follows the chain of custody, as you will, of projects of this nature. And as a result, I'm interested in supporting it.
Trustee Trezise.
Director Schmidt's suggestion, we go through the individual criteria, just read down them. Number one is it's consistent with the intent and purpose of this chapter, which is a zoning chapter. I believe it falls within that. It's consistent with applicable land use policies contained in the township's comprehensive development. That's the master plan. Again, I believe that is met. It's designed, constructed, and operated and maintained so as to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the existing and intended character in the general vicinity. Well, this is a significant development on a piece of property. The developer does have the right to build and to utilize his property within the zoning law. His willingness to increase setbacks to, we've got the height limited by ordinance, and he will be working with Drain Commissioner and our building department staff to make sure this is as harmonious as possible. But we cannot require a landowner to give up his or her rights to develop property within the accordance of the zoning law. I don't think there's anything in this that could be hazardous to existing neighborhood areas. That's number 4. Not detrimental to the economic welfare of surrounding properties. With the setbacks, with the light control, with the water control, I don't think it should have a significant impact on neighboring properties. Project is adequately served by public facilities. We've got water and sewer there. It's a matter of finding a way to hook up and make sure they're adequate, and that will be with our engineering department and with the Drain Commissioner. So I think that will be met if it goes forward, because they need all those approvals before they can do so. It's adequately served by public sanitation facilities. Again, that's with the utilities. Does not involve uses, activities, or processes, materials, and equipment, condition, or operations that will be detrimental to any person, property, or general welfare because of excessive traffic, noise, smoke, fumes. Based on the traffic report, which, as is normally generated, counts the number of increased traffic for developing this site under this zoning as opposed to what could be done on the former zoning and the single-family dwellings in there. So we're looking at differences, and that seems insignificant to me. And it will be directly or indirectly have substantial adverse impact on the natural resources. It will not. This is a relatively small piece of scrub growth. There are some interesting trees in there, and it doesn't seem to be a large impact on the township natural resources. So I think just a quick recitation, and that's my thinking, not the whole board's. I believe those conditions have been met.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I'll add a few thoughts as well. First, I want to thank our staff for following up on the traffic-related question. I understand that we had followed typical procedure in providing the numbers as they had been previously provided, but it is, I think, interesting to just be aware of what they show, even if we don't go over that every single time, as we've heard a lot about traffic from the neighbors and, have heard about it previously on Dobie Road. And so I think it's worthwhile to just think about it, consider it, and have it be put out for the public record. The one thing I want to follow up on additional to that also is the screening. We had heard from a couple of residents concern about the screening to the west of the driveway. And we've obviously gotten concessions from the developer on the setbacks from the buildings. But however, likelier than not, site plan review will move the dumpster to the back of the property. And I'm just speculating, but that's typically where they fall. And certainly, we have the turnaround at the back of the property as well. I would be interested to know what the process is, if that occurs in site plan, or if this is something the board needs to put more of a requirement around additional screening for the back, especially for light pollution.
Right.
Yeah, so the board, well within your rights to create a condition if you believe it relates to some issue of the special use permit, right? So to start with, certainly doable. Historically, what Meridian Township has often done in something I see pretty regularly is in the files is that during the site plan review, the final screening of insert thing here, it's typically a parking lot, but screening is subject to the determination of the director once we are sort of in place, so that we can confirm that, yep, even in the middle of winter, it's well screened. I think to the board's point, if there is an interest in making that a front and center issue, I would encourage a condition along the lines of, adequate screening shall be provided along the western edge of the development area to ensure no light pollution travels off-site or something of that nature. I'm blanking at the very end, I apologize. But certainly well within your rights to consider a condition there. What we will do, obviously, we understand the intent here, and I think the hope is that what will happen is that we will wait to see once the construction is sort of moving along, so that we know the extent of grading, et cetera, and we can see what's going to stay, then we can discuss, okay, we need to supplement here, here, and here. As opposed to trying to do it right now on the plan when we still don't have, although we have grades, we don't have full grading yet. So I don't know the full extent of what actually needs to be removed. And so that's, I think historically why they probably left it to one of the last things in the site plan review, because they kind of wanted to see where that edge was going to end up. Did they need to go another 5 feet, or were they able to save it and we could sort of save additional natural features?
Thank you. Yeah, having previously lived on a curve in a road, I can tell you the headlights, you think you're going to not notice them, and then you see every car that goes by. And so I think, from my perspective, ensuring that we find a way to minimize the impact of the light pollution coming from vehicles driving down that one driveway would be a helpful addition, whether it's by addition to the conditions or sort of a board directive that you've come away from this meeting with that's, a part of that, your consideration. Trustee Wilson.
I would suggest that we add it as an additional condition to the list of conditions that's already been developed.
Mm-hmm. Board members, is there any issue with adding that as a condition? See shaking heads. All right, well, we'll get to that when we make the motion here at some point. So I appreciate Trustee Trezise, former planning commissioner, having to go through that, and also a former ZBA member who's well familiar with current ZBA members, that's right, who's going through the criteria one by one. That's always a helpful thing. A couple of things that I'll call out specifically after he went through relatively comprehensively. This is, in my opinion, consistent with applicable land use policies, the future land use map. I was one of the board members that voted on the master plan, which includes the future land use map, when we passed it most recently. And certainly it was my intent that this be included in that as multifamily. And so I can only speak for myself, but I think, having been a part of that process, this was certainly the intent. I think, in addition, considering the neighboring uses and the neighboring, harmonious nature of the area, we have directly to the north the Chief Okemos Circle apartments, to the northeast are the Arrow Tree apartments. These are both multifamily uses that exist currently. We understand certainly that there's institutional to the south and an RA to the east and west. But I think this is likely going to be the last furthest south multifamily development that we see in this area, likelier than not, barring some massive change. And it is not so far offset that I wouldn't consider the contiguous area to the north unharmonious. And so for me, this is an appropriate small extension of multifamily directly south of existing multifamily. In terms of hazardousness, it's not hazardous in the way that the intent of that section is meant to consider, right? We're not talking about excessive pollution. We're not talking about, dry cleaner runoff that's going to pollute the watershed. We're not talking about smog or smoke or, behaviors for other, uses that are more strictly hazardous to folks' health. It is adequately served by public facilities. We have utilities in this area. This is largely, I think, meant to consider areas outside the urban services boundary, for example, where we don't have water and sewer. So this certainly is, adequately served there. And, I think there are reasons why it does meet the rest of the criteria as well that Trustee Trezise also mentioned. I'll also state that this is not where the process necessarily ends, right? This is where the board weighs in on the special use permit in front of us. There is a lengthy process of site plan review that goes on at the staff level that will continue on and continue forward if we approve this evening. There are further approvals that will be necessary to receive through the Ingham County Road Department with respect to the driveway, with respect to the new curb cut that would have to be added on this property. And they may request further level of service analysis or traffic impact studies down the line as well if they deem that this project will adversely affect it beyond the typical amount. And then finally, it will of course have to go through the Drain Commissioner's office. And the Drain Commissioner's office is very diligent in making sure that when properties are developed, they are developed in such a way that they capture the water. We already know that the developer is well aware of that because of the detention areas that they've already included in their rudimentary diagrams that they've provided. But also, this is only the beginning of the water question when it comes to this particular project. And it's already been a multi-year process, but I would, I think that Mr. Fedewa and his team are well aware that the Drain Commissioner could make it an even further multi-year process as they move forward here. And, this will certainly be a situation where the Drain Commissioner will scrutinize this extensively. And based on the existing detention that was already indicated and the expected involvement of the Drain Commissioner's office, I suspect that the water will be well contained on this in this project. And so with all of that said, I have no issues with considering this site for approval. And I'll be voting to support it this evening as well. Any further discussion at this time? Clerk Demas.
I want to first say that I appreciate you all answering my questions. And I appreciate your guys' perspective and your input. My concerns, which I share with residents here, make it difficult for me to support this SUP. I remain to have concerns with the production of traffic, especially without a full traffic study conducted at the intersections. I do have concerns about noise levels and how much enforcement will be needed as a result of this. Based on public input, I would not describe this project as being designed as harmonious, but I do understand everyone's perspectives here. However, I disagree based on the public comments that we've received. And I had concerns and voted against the rezoning back in March, and my concerns remain relatively the same. So this all makes me inclined to vote no, but I do welcome conditions to be in place regarding the building structure with the amount of stories, because we should be consistent with our ordinances.
Thank you. Other comments at this time? Or motion to be made? Trustee Trezise.
I move to approve and to adopt the resolution approving special use permit 25-20, the request from Fedewa Holdings to construct 4 buildings at 4601 Dobie Road, parcel ID number 33-02-02-22-454-003, north of Faith Lutheran Church, subject to the following conditions. Approval is granted in general accordance with the proposed site plan as prepared by BRS Engineering, as received by the township on August 22, 2025. Any future changes to the SUP will require an amendment to SUP 25-20. All conditions for rezoning number 25001 shall continue to apply. I think it's 25-1.
It is.
-01. SUP number 25-20 will become void if construction related to the SUP has not commenced within 24 months of the effective date of the SUP, or if all construction related to the SUP is not completed within 36 months of the effective date of the SUP, unless an extension is granted. No more than 32 dwelling units shall be permitted on the property. A 100-foot building setback is required along the western property line of the parcel, as well as adequate screening as determined by the building department and the director of community planning. Sorry.
It's okay.
All buildings on site shall be 2.5 stories or less. All buildings on the site shall be 25 feet tall or less, 35 feet tall. And no construction on the site shall begin until all approvals of the Ingham County Drain Commission and the Ingham County Road Department have been granted.
Okay.
Support.
It's been moved by trustee Trezise, supported by trustee Wilson. Any further discussion at this time? Trustee Lentz.
Did we need to add that other condition?
He did.
He
Oh, it was in the middle of.
That was in the, okay.
After the
Waiting for
100-foot setback, I said, and subject to appropriate screening.
Great, thank
It
you.
was 2.5-minute soliloquy of an approval.
Thank you, I was trying to follow along.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, will Clerk Demas please call the roll?
Trustee Sunland,
Yes.
trustee Trezise.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Supervisor Hendrickson.
Yes.
Clerk Demas, no. Trustee Lentz.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-1.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda this evening is item 10C, third quarter budget amendments. For this, we have Manager Dempsey. Give him a moment to walk over to the podium and then we'll let him.
Yeah, thank you and good evening again, board members. And no, I am not Bernadette Blondie, the finance director, but I am going to sub in at least through the end of the year until she returns in early January. So before you this evening is the third quarter budget amendment. So working with staff across the organization to put this together. I'm just going to highlight a few things. Obviously, all of the detailed numbers are in here, as well as some of the explanations for the key items. But I'll highlight a couple things and then certainly entertain questions from all of you. So on the general fund, the good news is the bottom line here is an improvement of $266,000 to the good for the general fund. So that would be a net right now through the end of the third quarter of just under $67,000. So increasing the general fund balance. We've benefited from increased building permit activity over the course of this year, again, higher than budgeted. We also saw an increase in our 425 agreement from the city of Lansing. So this is for the College Fields development. Because those parcels are not in our assessing database, they're with the city of Lansing, we don't always know as well as we would with our own exactly where those are trending. So the good news for us is those were trending up, so we see additional revenue there. There's a number of adjustments that we're making in here in terms of expenses for the general fund. I noted that clerk's office is reducing budgeted overtime because of how they were able to manage the election more efficiently and moving some things around into the elections fund. There's also some increases to overtime in the police department, but subsequent reductions in salary staff line items. And then we have cost recovery expenditures proposed both for the police and fire departments, and there's additional forms per our guidelines that were included that in the packet as well. Again, this would be a net increase to the general fund, leaving us with about just under 6 months of expenditures in our fund balance. Moving on from there, special revenue funds, our capital projects funds and enterprise funds. Good news there as well. We're seeing increased revenues over projections, and most of our expenditure adjustments are just that. We do have some line item shifts that we're doing based on some higher expenses in certain areas and lower expenses in others. But overall, we are seeing improvements to most of those fund balances. I think there was one exception to that in the special revenue funds, and that was under the law enforcement grants, which will have a small decrease, but again, does have a positive fund balance overall. So we don't have any of those fund balances in the negative. There is a motion here this evening to approve it. Like our other budget amendments, this always comes to you on your action agenda, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have specifics. The details, of course, follow on the following spreadsheets for each of the line items.
Thank you very much. Board members, any questions of Manager Dempsey? Trustee Wentz.
Thank you. Mr. Dempsey, in regards to the 425 agreement, is being a new board member, I'm curious, should we expect changes to the fund balance related to the College Fields property each year, or is that a as it comes sort of situation? I'm just curious how that works with our budgeting with that agreement in place.
Yeah, so generally what we do is we tend to budget that line item fairly conservatively. Again, because we don't have the immediate access to the parcel records, and we're not as clear on what transactions are happening, because one of the things that will increase revenue there is the same for our tax base, and that's when a property is sold and it gets uncapped. So that's an issue. We don't, again, track that as closely because it's the city of Lansing doing that assessing. So we tend to budget conservatively on that. So we're much more likely to see that positive than we would to see a decline or a negative.
I understand, thank you. And with this being a full 50-year agreement, if I understand correct, about how many years are left on it? Is it upwards of 30?
35.
2025, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was 1999 the agreement was signed into, so we're about halfway through that agreement. So
great, thank you. I think that is a fascinating part of Michigan law, so I appreciate you illuminating what we can expect year over year as far as changes to fund balance. Thank you.
Yeah. Sort of to piggyback on that topic, is it possible for Director Winstead to interface with her counterpart over in the city of Lansing and get more accurate numbers for what we might expect so that we can more adequately budget this appropriately?
yeah, I mean, that's certainly something we could look at doing. We have in the past requested snapshots to just look at overall taxable value, because part of what we are trying to understand too is sort of, because we've heard from our residents, as we all know, that live there at times, they sometimes are surprised at how high their taxes are. And certainly it's higher as a millage rate goes compared to what we apply, because the city of Lansing has a significantly higher, more than double millage rate than the township. So we've had the opportunity to secure that data, again, snapshots to understand, what the city is generating versus what we generate. So, yeah, I think that's something we could certainly try to get a little bit more proactive with them on to hone in and get that.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'll also add that it is, we, had a significant increase in the first quarter, decrease in our fund balance in the first quarter, as we sort of adjusted to a couple of other budgetary items at that time. And we've essentially come out in the wash with this update. And so, therefore, adding to our fund balance again. And I just want to, commend our staff for, being fiscally responsible, being frugal with the taxpayer dollars. This is a healthy rainy day fund should things go sideways. And, we take our role and the members of the board as our fiduciaries of the township tax dollars very seriously. And I think our continuing to grow the fund balance year over year has been a reflection of that effort. And so thank you to the staff for their part in making sure that we continue to be, very, very thrifty with the township's dollars, and being able to show an increase in our fund balance. Any other board members? If not, we've got a motion in our packet if someone would be willing to make it.
Do we have to waive?
Not for this, no, I think it's only, there are only certain things that we actually do have to waive it for, and this is not one of them.
Okay.
Trustee Wilson.
Move to approve the third quarter 2025 budget amendments with an increase in budgeted fund balance for the general fund in the amount of $266,209, which projects an increase in fund balance of $66,902. Based on 2024 results, the projected fund balance at the end of December 31st, 2025, will be $12,720,162.
It's been moved by Trustee Wilson.
Second.
Supported by Trustee Lentz. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will Clerk Demas please call the roll?
Trustee Trezise.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Supervisor Hendrickson.
Yes.
Clerk Demas, yes. Trustee Lentz.
Yes.
Trustee Sunland.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is item 10D, Public Act 152, Annual Healthcare Exemption Option. Manager Dempsey.
Yes, as we had previously discussed regarding the budget, we're in the process of working on our healthcare plan renewals for next year. As I had shared previously, we're seeing substantial increases in those rates. And for 2026, we're proposing to maintain a plan that doesn't have an immediate premium co-share for employees. We have eliminated in the 26 budget any HSA contribution from the employer, so the township will not be contributing to HSA accounts, which employees have used to offset. We have a high deductible plan. So that is going away, so that benefit is. But we thought, rather than sort of give a double whammy, as I mentioned during the budget discussion, we wanted to proceed with the plan for 26 that didn't have co-share premiums. In order to do that, we have to exempt ourselves from the Public Act 152, which provides provisions for either falling under a hard cap scenario or doing the 80-20 co-share option. You can also have other co-share ratios as well. So we are recommending going through the exemption option procedure here, where the board would adopt this resolution to allow us to renew, again, above the hard caps. As I mentioned during the budget discussion, we will have to I think in 2026, really closely analyze the potential for co-shares going forward. Hopefully, next year, we're going to see a lesser percentage increase, maybe not a double digit, maybe we can keep it into the single digits, we'll see. One of the things I think that we'll have to do as well is continue to look at, as an organization, at our wellness plans, things that we're doing to help ensure that our employees remain healthy, help to address some of the cost, and working, creatively to, again, try to minimize the expenses here. But unfortunately, we're subject to the larger market conditions. We're also subject to some of our own plan use in terms of, having high use in certain areas that do drive up our cost. But with that, again, staff's recommendation is to approve the exemption resolution to allow us to, move forward with our healthcare plan for 2026.
Thank you very much. Board members, any questions or discussion at this time? Trustee Lenz.
I would just like to say I'm happy to see that we're continuing to offer a health plan that works for township staff. As you pointed out, the reality of what we need to shop for the number of employees is not an easy pill to swallow, but offering a worse version of healthcare to staff leads to lower productivity and just in general a population that we want to see happy and healthy and getting all the services they need. So I commend the effort to try to find something in a between a rock and a hard place situation. And I share the hope that next year those premiums will not be nearly as high and this decision won't be as difficult for us with the potential for hard caps. Excuse me.
Thank you. Trustee Trezise.
Yeah, we're a relatively small group to buy insurance from that point, and they're all retro rated, so it doesn't take much in the way of a serious health event with one of our employees to affect our rates. So they're gonna fluctuate up and down based on usage to an extent. So this year was surprising, shall we say. That big a rate increase I've never seen, but we do have to insure our employees, keep them working for us, if nothing else. So I will support this motion easily.
Other board members? Yeah, the township has been incredibly generous to our staff over the years in offering the health care options that we do. And, we are being gouged really by an industry that gouges too many people. And we are, I think, very lucky in this organization to be able to afford, we can absorb a 23% hit?
Yeah, it's going to probably net out now around, the initial was 26, we got it down into the 23.5 to 24 range.
Yeah. 24% increase.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to hand that to a family, to a small business in this area, it could be crippling. And I think it's worth noting that, this is highway robbery, this increase that we are facing, that so many people are facing throughout our community. And I'm thankful that we are able to continue to provide, this excellent healthcare at really no cost to our employees, essentially, by action here. I think it's interesting because Trustee Trezise is right. We are a small group, from a healthcare perspective. But, as you might expect, we did our due diligence and we looked at joining a pool of larger, a larger group setting with the hopes of getting reduced increases and reduced rates. And we found exactly the opposite, that there was almost no impact to the actual healthcare cost increase. And so, from an insurance standpoint, I'm no expert, right? I don't work for the insurance companies, but you'd think that you spread the risk across a much larger population and a cost will eventually per unit come down. And the fact that it's not is indicative to me that they are essentially lying to us by, in the premise of how insurance is supposed to be funded. And it's really abhorrent that they're taking advantage of their consumers in that way. But that's not what we're here for tonight. We're here to think about whether or not we continue to exempt ourselves from this section in order to offer this kind of health insurance to our people. And I think it's an easy yes from me. We're going to have some incredibly difficult decisions to make over the coming year or two, as we expect that we will see increases, over the next few years as well. And as we enter collective bargaining, we'll see even more. But for now, I'm pleased that we're able to offer this to our employees. And we'll be supportive of this resolution this evening. So with that said, do we have a motion to make this evening? Clerk Demas.
Move to approve the resolution to adopt the annual exemption option, Section 8, as set forth in 2011 Public Act 152, the Publicly Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act.
It's been moved by Clerk Demas, supported by Trustee Lentz. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will Clerk Demas please call the roll?
Do we have to move to suspend our rules?
I don't think this is one that requires a suspension either.
Okay. Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Hendrickson?
Yes.
Clerk Demas, yes. Trustee Lentz?
Yes.
Trustee Sunland?
Yes.
Trustee Trezise?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is item 11A, the Township Manager Review Process. All right, board members, first and foremost, thank you all for getting me your reviews in a timely manner. We were able to get that published and sent out. I may come back to you in the next couple of months here if we need to consider a slight amendment to our process, because if this meeting were ever held on the first Tuesday, there would be almost no time to actually get that executive summary written. But because we are on Thursday, here we are. So we talked about this at our last meeting, and I've pared down the memo substantially, and we'll just sort of go through what we've presented here. Our policy mandates that we go to our employees, a random sampling, and collect their reviews of the township manager. We then provided those to the board members for their consideration, as well as their reviews to include for Manager Dempsey also. My role in this process is to collect those reviews, compile them unaltered, and draft an executive summary, which I present here for your consideration. And so I will point out that I received reviews from all 6 of us that are here at the dais this evening. Treasurer Burkhart, unfortunately, had her procedure prior to being able to fill that out. Although having been so recently appointed, wouldn't have a whole lot of experience with Manager Dempsey to be able to provide a full review. But certainly next year she'll, I'm certain, weigh in more thoroughly. As I had pointed out, we received reviews from 2 of our employees as well, which we had provided to you. And I have created the executive summary, which you'll find in your packet. I will further condense this so we don't have to go through it word by word. But essentially, the consistent theme of the review of Manager Dempsey's performance is that he has been an excellent addition to our township, to helm our township on our behalf. We've gone through a rather transitionary period over the last year with several new members being elected and appointed, and a couple of retirements as well. I think one of the through lines of Manager Dempsey's performance is that he exhibits a calm and deliberative approach to the matters that the board considers and matters that staff bring to him. In any transition, it can be a challenge to come in and understand the organization and create quick and positive relationships with the staff. And I think it's been overwhelmingly positive from the feedback that we received from our staff, building a quick rapport with them. We had, as a part of this, there was some constructive advice offered. It was almost exclusively surrounding being a more vocal participant at board meetings in terms of adding to the manager's report. But also, when questions are asked in an area of subject matter expertise, of which he has many, that we may wish to hear from him a little bit more in those areas as well. But overall, the performances were very high, as you'll note in the included materials. And I think, I hope that I have captured our overall sentiment by indicating that we offer an exemplary review of Manager Tim Dempsey's performance over the course of 2025 and look forward to as many successes next year. So this is on for discussion this evening. If there's anything you wish to add or amend to the summary description that I've provided in the packet, or add any comments, this would be the time, and then we will vote to officially adopt the performance review at our next meeting. So with that said, board members, do you wish to make any comments? Any changes, additions, or subtractions out of the executive summary or review? Seeing some shaking heads. No discussion to add at this. Oh, Trustee Trezise.
I would just thank you for the executive summary, putting this together. You had, as you said, little time to do it because we all took almost all of the time you gave us in order to provide you with, and it's a good thing you reminded me.
Yeah, I was out trick-or-treating when that text, because I'm like, uh-oh, we're coming up on the deadline now.
That's right.
With my kids.
No, but it's a nice job summarizing what we all said, as well as what our two employees that chose to respond said. So I think it's clear that we all have a lot of respect and appreciation for Mr. Dempsey's work for us and with us, and I think just an entirely appropriate evaluation.
Other board members? Clerk Demas?
I just want to add on to that. Thank you, Supervisor Hendrickson, for all the work that you've put into this process. I actually met with HR Director Tudolf to understand the process a bit more, and I know a lot of work was put into it. I am curious about the selection of the randomization element, I guess, of sending the evaluation to staff. I wanted to know if there's ways we could improve that to incorporate more staff opinion, especially with our department heads and with staff in our departments. I would just like to hear more from them as well, but I understand that can be limited. So I did want to bring up that possibility, but I think that this process is done very well, and I appreciate hearing board input as well with this.
Yeah. So to answer your question, the date that we had determined last year to work backward from is the second meeting in November, where we would approve the review. The reason being is that we want the current board to complete those reviews and not put that onto a new board should they be elected. And so we worked backward. Okay, well, we have to approve it at the second meeting in November, discuss it at the first meeting in November. And so we worked backward from there. I think having gone through this now, I think I would try to move the couple of the deadlines back a couple of days. We gave our staff about a week and a half of time to fill out their reviews. I think a little more time for them would be helpful. And I think we could, we as a board, I think, can provide our feedback a little in a shorter time period. I think moving a couple of those date windows may make it possible. In terms of the randomization, the way it worked was Director Tiethoff assigned every employee in each group a number, and those groups are enumerated in the policy. And she essentially said, pick two numbers between 1 and 13. And I picked, 4 and 9, and employees 4 and 9 who I didn't know were sent the review form to complete. I agree fully that I would love to see more participation in the future. Some of the feedback that I understand we got from a couple of folks who did not turn in reviews was that they did not feel that they had enough exposure to Manager Dempsey working with him directly to provide an adequate review. And so I don't think it was necessarily a lack of interest. I think it was actually motivated, from what I understand, by fairness, and that they didn't want to offer a review not having actually had those interactions. But I expect that as time goes by, that he'll continue to interact with more and more folks in the organization, and that we'll see more staff involvement once they've got a little more exposure.
Yeah, and Director Tiethoff also repeated those sentiments as well, so that makes sense. And I think I just want to recognize that our staff are very busy. We have a lot of people who come in here. We take a lot of phone calls and the amount of emails we have. So I completely understand that element. Maybe it's just from a clerk perspective, but I always like increasing the opportunity for people to participate, making sure as many people as possible have that option. However, I also understand the limits to that. So I just wanted to bring that up to see if there's any way we could improve on that. But so far, I've been very impressed with this process. And I've also been impressed by our township manager, Manager Dempsey, with his professionalism as I reflected in my review.
Wonderful. Yes, Trustee Trezise.
One other piece that most people probably aren't aware of was this is the first time we've used this process.
Yes.
And so there's going to be wrinkles in it, but it's probably the first time we've made a conscious effort to go to randomly selected employees to get their opinions. So evaluating someone is not easy if you do it honestly. And I appreciate them saying or implying that they didn't have enough interaction to think they could fairly do so. And I think that shows a maturity and honesty that we should applaud. So I think as it gets more customary within the township employees to understand this process, we would likely get more response.
Yeah. Great.
And more time.
A little more time, maybe. All right. Well, seeing no other discussion, we'll see this back on our agenda for action at our next meeting. Unless Manager Dempsey, you wanted to weigh in at all?
No, just thank you to everyone for the time and effort that you put into it. I appreciate the feedback, both positive and constructive. Certainly take it to heart for some of those items. And certainly, when it comes to staff, this rings true not just of my direct reports, but all staff. I have an open door policy. I'm always open to ideas and suggestions if people want to offer them. But certainly, it is a case where it does take time. It's an organization, with 170 some full-time employees. So, and I've been here less than a year. So, over time, we'll get to know more and more of them, and they'll get to know me. So, hopefully, you'll see that participation jump up. But again, thanks to all of you for the time and effort you put into it. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. That brings us to our second opportunity for public remarks. I see some green cards heading my way. Thank you. Same rules as the first time apply. We'll go ahead and give you 3 minutes. But first up, we'll have Chris Clark, and then David Clark. We'll have you on deck.
Chris Clark. I just want to make a quick comment about this board being elected officials. I believe that elected officials should act in the best interest of all the residents they serve, not just the ones they might be friends with or work with. During this process, the board seemingly ignored hundreds of comments and hundreds of signatures of residents opposed to the density of the Feedawood development. We seem to be disregarded by the township and this board in favor of the two parties who stood to gain financially from this project, the developer and the church. And just for the record, this same 32-unit development was denied by the board in 2019. The developer did not reduce it from prior board requests. I looked at some election data the other day. Meridian Township has approximately 35,000 registered voters, give or take. Of the 4 elected trustees, each of you received about 17,000 votes, again, give or take. There weren't that many votes that actually separated you from the people who weren't elected to the board. Residents usually remember how you voted on issues that matter to them. In the event they don't, or they don't have much time to pay attention to local government happenings, I'm going to do my part from now until 2028 to help them remember how you voted. The residents of the township deserve to know which of you voted for higher taxes, which of you voted for the destruction of natural resources, which of you voted to develop expensive rental properties instead of affordable single-family homes, which of you voted for increased traffic, et cetera, et cetera. I believe people deserve leaders who act in the best interests of all the residents they were elected to serve. I will do my best in the coming years to increase community awareness and voters' knowledge of the decisions their local government and board are making. Congratulations. You have galvanized civic engagement and community involvement that will continue until at least the next election. So thank you for that.
Thank you. David Clock?
I'll be brief. Just, one item that seems to be continuously ignored, again, goes back to this development and the cut-through traffic on Seneca just seem to be ignored. It's a narrow street, does not have sidewalks, and again, it's the lowest part on Seneca, hence the water issues. That seems to be ignored. Another item is incrementally adding multiple family units in an area that can't handle the traffic. We brought up concerns before about the corner of Dobie and Hamilton. There's no right turn lanes on that corner, it's already backed up now. There's so many areas of failure along this process. I'll come back with more organized comments at a future board meeting. It's clear the Planning Commission, Township Board, and the planners don't have the best interest of the residents, at least on Seneca, in the forefront. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Can you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yep, David Fedewa, 278 Hazlet Road, Hazlet, Michigan. Board and I guess to the Planning Commission. I really appreciate your consideration for this, and I know that there was a lot of neighbors that have reached out on this issue, and so I do feel that it is good for the greater good of the community, and I know and understand that somebody building in your backyard, you're going to oppose that. But looking at it from the bigger picture, I think that we're bringing our community a better place to live. We do have rentals in this community, and we have a lot of people that come from, out of the country that come to our rentals and then end up eventually living here in Meridian Township. And so I think that having more of these options available to people in a bigger sense brings a more diverse community to Meridian Township. So I do thank you for your decision today, and I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Seeing none, public comment is closed at 8:16 p.m. Next on our agenda is item 13, other matters and board member comments. Any other matters this evening before the board? Seeing none, item 14 is for adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's been moved by trustee Lentz.
Support.
Supported by trustee Wilson. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned at 8:16 PM.